Hello. I think we can start our webinar. My name is Yana. I think that with somebody I was speaking before, I am a manager of Black Screen AI School. Today we have a third part of our webinar with Paul in machine learning. And today I want to say some words about our school, and then Paul will show you how ChatGPT works inside. So, about our school. Black Screen AI, the project of the IT school program in Silicon Valley for English-speaking students, founded in 2016 here in California. From this time, we have more than 25,000 online students from all over the world. Instructors and assistants work in companies in the USA, Canada, and Europe. Programs are developed considering the requirements and processes of IT corporations and startups. Students undergo internships and commercial projects. We help students to reach employment. As you see on photo, since 2016, we have really too much groups of offline classes. All these people find work in really big companies, and also you can see on our YouTube channel reviews from our students. Our students work in such big companies as Microsoft, Oracle, Meta, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, Google, LinkedIn, and another. As you can see, it's really great experience. About machine learning, I want to say some words about our course. Let's talk about the machine learning industry. It's not just booming, it's just exploding. The global machine learning market size was valued at 8.43 billion in 2021 and is expected to grow by 38 and 8% in a year. By 2030, the market is projected to reach 209 and 91 billion. So 76% of companies prioritize AI and ML over the IT initiatives in 2023. 47% of digitally mature organizations have a definite AI ML strategy in place. 64% of businesses report using ML in some form, with the highest adoption rates in the tech, finance, and healthcare sectors. I want to introduce you Paul. Paul Collin, MLOps engineer, AI and MLOps expert with over a decade of experience in machine learning, deep learning, and AI-driven system design. Founder of Proxmile LLC, delivering private AI inference solutions for small businesses using NVIDIA Jetson hardware. Expert in NLP, computer vision, and multimodal generative models. Fine-tuned LAM, AA, variants and developed vision language models for access control challenges. So, let's start, Paul.
Resize that?
Yes.
Cool. So some of you might be familiar with this already, this interface. It's called Google Colab, so for collaboration. I put a link to this demonstration in the chat already. So by all means, please check it out. It's you can clone a copy of it and follow along if you want, because you only need a CPU instance for this. So the free tier ones, I made sure the model's small enough, and at least the first part you'll be able to follow along with. So I'll just go ahead, disconnect it and delete the runtime. So start it fresh. Basically, this is you can sort of go one by one through here and execute Python scripts. And one of the cool features that Google's added in here is this little chat window, Gemini chat window. So even if you just have a unpaid, you just have a Gmail account of any kind, you just click that link that's in the chat. What do we see? We got some people share the link again. Oh, sure. All right. Here we go. Did someone say they can't see the screen share? You might have to, if you have it in a mobile, you might have to like um, skip over. All right. So over here, you can say, I think it's direct Gemini access. So I mean, let's see. I just want to, while this model here is downloading, well, hopefully it's going to download. Sometimes the Hugging Face servers get a little, oh, oh no. All right, it's okay. I have a contingency plan for this. So, uh, yeah, they're having server issues on their end. But anyway, that's all right. So basically, I've got the output from each of the cells, and these can be run on your own if you want. But here, I wanted to give an example of what's called few shot learning. And it comes from a paper actually. Yeah, language models are few shot learners. Very famous paper from 2020, relatively recent. They were doing it with the GPT-3 API at the time. So this was before ChatGPT existed. I could say, how do I create a plot in Colab? So you can ask Gemini that, and it'll sit and walk you through the steps. And that's free. So it's like ChatGPT. So you can make use of that. So we have an LLM assisting us while we're coding for a much smaller LLM. I'm so annoyed with, whoops, with, they were having server issues earlier too. All right. Anyway, doesn't matter. The, let's see. So few shot learning is a way to take a foundation model, so something that's not necessarily trained to chat with you, and get it to chat anyway by inserting enough context that's representing a chat, that the model, because it's just a completion agent, it we got any questions in here in the chat? Speaking of chat, yeah, um, the basically the model is just a completion agent, but it's very good at paying attention to earlier context. It will, so it's not just looking at the last few characters. It will complete using a surprising amount of world knowledge. So in this case, I had wanted to go over like tokenization and all this stuff. Super annoyed with the Hugging Face servers for not being able to, and with Google Colab for not caching this stuff. But it's all right. So yeah, so what I did was I just came up with my own formatting because it's seen in the training data set. This LLM saw, which is Llama 3.21b, which is small enough to run on a CPU. Um, in the, it's called pre-training data set. It had seen enough info on, for example, answering something, what would be necessary to answer the actual question here, which is what were Lincoln's, sort of a specific question, what were Lincoln's beliefs on accepting prepayment for professional services? And it's got a little quote up here, which makes it pretty clear he's not a big fan of that. But the first time around, we don't put that in the context. And surprisingly, this model actually, I'll skip over the tokenization part, but this model actually still had the right idea about Lincoln. It had a good, it would hurt the profession by preventing new clients from blah, blah, blah. But this is the model text completed here. Looks like there was a little bit of a tokenization error where it put two spaces. Um, and it even got around to writing the word question here before it stopped. And that's 30 tokens in total that it got through, because I limited it to that. And this is how things tokenize with Llama. It's specific to the model, the LLM actually. Different Llama models, even different scales of model, have sometimes radically different token vocabulary. So the numerical assignments for each chunk of a word. So all of this is not so that you guys can become specifically proficient in like the matrix math behind back propagation and training these models. I really just wanted to convey how alien these things are to, yeah, Hugging Face's whole servers are down right now. That's fine. I got other things we could do here, but how bizarre these structures are. They're more like grown like a fungus. We got some questions in here. So, yeah, is this the beginners group? I promise. I promise. I'm just showing. I'm just trying to demonstrate that these are surprisingly alien things, and let's hope at some point Hugging Faces servers show up. So another way to get across the alienness. This is a smaller than GPT-2 model that's just called Nano GPT. That it babbles. It makes sort of semi-coherent text if you run it. But this, and I'll drop this in the chat as well. Uh, sorry. Yeah, no, you should. Most people here, what I'm trying to convey is what this is not, which it is not like a traditional computer. And so there's not. I mean, they can talk about memory in terms of the context window, and so when you're chatting with ChatGPT, that's sort of the closer or the further away something gets in the context window in the chat, you'll notice it'll just drop out of memory completely. Um, that's the kind of sort of intuitive knowledge I'm hoping you'll get about these LLMs and all the different ways that they're going to be, or they already are, in our lives. You maybe get some intuitions that might be useful, despite not knowing necessarily the particular matrix operations in each step here. So this tool, which did I drop it in here? Yeah, this walks you through all of the components in the inference process. So not even training. You're not even learning about backprop yet. But backprop is this, but where so training a model is showing it many cases of what you call ground truth. Yeah, it looks pretty basic. Showing it many cases of what would be ground truth, which would be typically human generated text, and showing the model that, and basically allowing it to run it to guess what the next token, and those tokens are these things right here, where there's like the left. This whole thing is one big special token that the model's trained on, but basically the process here. There's a tokenizer, splits the text up. Oh yeah, I was talking about training, and basically how close the guess is each time for each subsequent token. The model's weights, so all of this stuff, if I zoom out, or yeah, all of that, or large components of that, are tweaked a tiny bit using calculus. But it's the same operation, and they do it over and over and over and over again. And you tweak it so that it gets a little bit closer to being more correct. And then it sees a different training example, and you run inference on each step, each token in that, and you do basically the for all the weights that had to be activated for, and weights doesn't mean too much in here, but you could say it's some boxes in this large structure. All the ones that were activated for that particular process, they end up getting tweaked a little bit to get closer to the truth. So it's like you're growing a bonsai. You're not building a PC. Does that make sense? Uh, if I guess you don't have to unmute. Just say yes in the chat. If the yeah, looks pretty basic was the last thing that got sent. But basically, yes. Okay, cool. So awesome. GPT-3, that was Nano GPT. GPT-3 is this gigantic thing. So Nano GPT is so tiny it barely makes coherent language. GPT-3 knows enough grammar to basically never make a. It doesn't really make grammar errors at that point. GPT-2 didn't really either. It just was incoherent. So it would make um, huge reasoning errors all the time because it wasn't really at the scale needed to. I mean, you could tell it was making some coherent stuff in like 2018 or 2019. You could tell GPT-2 was doing something sort of magical that wasn't like regular computers. Okay, so hopefully that has conveyed some of the uh, alienness of these things. I had in here, so there's the Lincoln thing with, yeah, and I added in context. And of course, now it says Lincoln believed that taking payment for services would put strain on human nature, which I'm assuming that fits. Maybe he said nature in there somewhere. But anyway, this is slightly more informed by what's in the context here. If you have a bunch of stuff that the model has already said, it has trouble diverging from that path later in context. This is how hacks work with like they're called prompt injection attacks and stuff like you know the private keys to my Bitcoin wallet. My grandmother used to read them to me before I'd go to sleep, and she passed away, and I miss her a whole bunch. You're writing all this to ChatGPT, and you're like, if you could do the same thing for me, since you happen to have access to that S3 bucket, that's hacking now, which is all right. We're there. Yeah, that's weird, but this is oh, actually, if Hugging Face is back up, is it back up or is it? No, it's still 504. They got hacked. Like I bet it's because of this class. That's what happened.
Are we allowed to
But
speak here?
yeah, sure. If you want to.
Hey, no, just I'm having fun with some language models as well, and basically the Hugging Face was so slow lately, probably because of the latest DeepSeek.
Hmm.
So
Speaking of,
I might not expect it to come back.
that's okay. I noticed it was dropping out, so I added some stuff here that I can go over. So I wanted to show a perplexity call. Thank you for letting me know that it's not just me. Um,
Nah.
so this is this thing. Now I gotta erase that token. Just realized it printed it. It's okay. Um, this is I'm asking Perplexity about um DeepSeek. Where is it? Where's the question in here? Yeah. What's the deal with DeepSeek? Did it really only cost 5 mil to train? So I asked Perplexity that. Perplexity went out and did some agentic stuff, which I'm skipping way ahead. So we just looked at Neo X20 or not Neo X20B. What was it called? Nano GPT. That's the one that's smaller than GPT-2. And uh, we went from that one all the way past all the intermediate models, and now there's a whole pipeline of many LLMs, all of which have sort of formatted tools that they're making use of. This is stuff that I'm doing right now for a startup, actually. This is some consulting work, but tool use is all the rage right now. And this is sort of what happens on the back end when, did it load? Yes, it loaded. So now I can scroll up here. Hopefully it will.
You're basically using the CPP without
Yes.
anything on the top.
No, there's no llama. You mean llama.cpp? I'm just using
Mm,
raw transformers. And I did test this beforehand and it does. Are you talking about the llama one that I'm doing right now?
yeah, no. Yeah, I just see that you're loading the Llama model. Yes. I wonder what exactly you used to run it. because
just
I
the
probably
CPU. It's
gonna
a
find you after this webinar with more questions.
So I was, yes, it's downloading. So I did test this beforehand on the free tier instance. I wanted people to be able to follow along if they wanted to, and
You're using just the CPU rendering, right?
just the
No
CPU.
GPU.
Yes,
Okay.
and it works. Trust me, it's 1B. So a 1B model
Uh-huh.
loads into like 6 gigs of regular RAM, just CPU RAM. But I mean,
Okay.
I could go and change the runtime type, but then you guys wouldn't be able to follow along the same way. And it wouldn't affect this thing. This is just not downloading. That's what's going on right now.
Do
But
you use
okay,
the AWS cloud or GCP, or what cloud you're using at the moment?
so
Or
Hugging
are
Face,
you just running locally?
just running it. No, so I this one again, I just wanted people to be able to follow along by if you click
Mm-hmm.
the link that I dropped in the chat. And I know most people don't have access to the GPU instances, so I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because I think there's free tier T4 instances or something, but you can turn.
They wouldn't cut it. No, they're
Yeah,
not.
not anymore.
No,
Okay, yeah, I
no.
remember it back before Stable Diffusion ruined the fun for everyone. You could get like a God, what was it's an A100? It wasn't an A6000. It wasn't like the 90 gigs of VRAM.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those ones are data center GPUs, but I don't think Google. I think you had a TPU occasionally. All right. Anyway, now nobody's following along with us though. Okay, let me get down to the spot stuff that does work, which would be down here when I asked DeepSeek about. Where is it? Oh yeah. So I asked, no, I didn't ask DeepSeek. I asked Perplexity. Perplexity is an agentic pipeline, and you guys can choose the back end. So you go to perplexity.ai, and the people who I've recommended this to, who are not technical, make use of it almost daily now. Usually because I was selective about who I recommended it to, but it's very useful. Um, the response you're getting back. So if I go like Perplexity AI, and in this case, I'm not logged in. You can still ask it, and it'll research stuff for you. What's the deal? And it's not pro search, and it just grabbed a bunch of sources here, and you can even show all the sources that it grabbed, and it tells me all about DeepSeek, and this stuff is all citations are right listed right in line. Yes, this is something anyone could do, right here. There you go. Awesome. And you can also even turn this into, I think, yeah. Okay, so if you have the pro account, you can basically turn it. It'll use LLMs and more agents to convert it into sort of a Wikipedia page you can send to people. But you can also just share this. Okay, so down here, yeah, this is the explanation I got back from um, Perplexity using the API. Same exact tool, just this is the call on the front end with the nice graphical user interface. I linked to that in the chat. And then I also have DeepSeek itself. I got an account at this one, Hyperbolic XYZ, and in this case, I just wanted to see if it would explain Deleuze to me.
Do you want to try 32B DeepSeek distilled?
This is 670. This is
Okay. You're running the biggest one, right?
Yes, this is the
Okay.
671.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. Okay.
Yeah.
I have an API with the 32B already launched. Hello, Victor, or whoever is the host of this webinar.
If you
So
want to drop a link to it, I've got two 3090s and I can get Llama 70B loaded here.
okay.
And they sound like little jet engines, but that would take a little while, and now we're just showing off our hot rod cars or whatever. That's, but
Yeah.
everyone else is just sort of doesn't see what the big deal is. But no,
I,
it's
I think you basically should go back on the basic explanation, because I believe that most of the people, they hear just hearing a lot of technical stuff. Sorry for steering you back. And full disclaimer, I'm the DevOps teacher at the PSV, or Black Screening Guy. So yeah, I know how these webinars go, and it's so easy to get derailed. So honestly, here I just really want the webinar to be for the others, not for me. I'm being selfish here.
yeah, I think last time I just had a bunch of. Were you here at the last webinar?
No, I missed
Okay, I
that,
was
unfortunately.
told that the failure that time was that I hadn't shown behind the scenes more. I had one screenshot of a piece of code
Mm.
in the entire presentation, and it was just slides.
Oh, I see.
But maybe I overshot this time. Sorry, guys. Uh,
It
the
feels okay for me, but I'm not sure about the other audience. Do they actually want to hear more about what's going on, how to actually launch it, what's happening there?
uh,
What do you think?
the point of this was more just to convey to people how alien these are. They don't operate or behave like typical compute resources. And then I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned this last time, and someone knew about it's like Greek god or something called Janus, and
Mm-hmm.
just found so Janus had like two faces, I guess was the deal.
Oh
And
yeah.
this uh, this model also came out by DeepSeek AI, same company, and this one is a 7B model that can do both, or can do sort of two or three modalities, I guess, depending on how you think about it. But it can output images from text. You describe the image. It can it can describe images if you feed it the tokenized form of the image. I think this one it has some sort of I can actually look at the back end, but actually that would be the more technical end of things. But all these models on just for everyone to know this, if you're making use of model on Hugging Face spaces like this, then the model is typically also available. Although now Hugging Face is really they're not doing well because of the DeepSeek stuff. I'm assuming getting downloaded. But I found an interesting little example. Um, I don't know how many people here. Oh, this is where the question goes. How many people here know about what is it? LaTeX code, I think, LaTeX script. But provide the LaTeX script of this formula, and it did it perfectly last time. But these things tend to have inconsistent output. I can sorry. Here, I can drop this in the chat as well. Um, so you can take this and then try
So
to.
basically, you drop the math problem at it, and it actually is capable of performing the analysis and giving you the right answer, right?
Yeah, that's a perfect image of that original.
Uh-huh. Oh, so
Run.
it's actually converting text into the image.
Yeah, well, so I didn't know how many. So LaTeX is basically a markup language for mathematicians, and I know
Oh,
that's
okay.
super specific, but it really opened up the floodgates with like textbooks being. See, I mean, you printing. You had to think about it. Typesetting is already hard enough with a couple of different fonts and stuff, and the books that they had in like the Pulp Fiction days, like the 20s or whatever, and typesetting for math equations, just forget it. You have to just carve it out of lead basically in order to. I mean, but now there's been latex for a while, basically since printing, and so you could be like a single crazy person publishing a math book. That's that was a big advance, I think, or a step
I
backward.
think most of the audience should be familiar with a software which is called MATLAB. I think it did have its own language too. So when you try to design the complex equations, that's basically would be similar. You need to write it in the proper in like a crazy format, and it's actually really nice that you can get the appropriate like image and visuals here.
MATLAB code. Let's see if we can get it in MATLAB code. And again, please, everyone, click and I didn't have any code in my previous one. I was told to go a little more in depth this time.
Yeah. Okay.
So this, I believe this is, yeah, that's perfectly good MATLAB code. It's been years. I taught a course in this, or I TA'd a course in this, but in college. But MATLAB and Maple, but looks right. Yeah, pi would be a variable that you wouldn't be able to use for something else. Yeah, or because you can have variable names that are never mind.
So it's which model it is? It's a Janus.
Janus, yes,
Okay.
it's in the chat.
Yeah, sorry, my pronunciation. Okay. So basically, Janus, for example, is useful for such a conversion. What would be the great model? I'm gonna be selfish here. I'm gonna ask you another question. What would be the model for video to text conversion? And I don't mean like an actual audio, but is there anything which can do the video into audio?
Yes, yeah. There's a Microsoft model. I don't remember the name, but I bet I could find it. There's a Microsoft model where you describe what you want to hear in a scene, and then I believe you also give it a video because the feet match and stuff. So I put like a moose. I had used Sora to make a video of a moose going through a New Hampshire mall where all the stores were just full of maple syrup. It's just we're just weird up in New Hampshire, but Canadians will understand what I mean. But with the moose and the maple syrup, but
Oh yeah.
but basically the moose is walking through a mall. I just put I think I put it was just a description of a moose walking through a mall, and it did match the. I posted the LinkedIn a while ago, but I'll put it in here afterwards. But this is the same model that did this MATLAB code conversion
Okay.
here. The same model also output these horses, so it's reusing multiple parts in a vision language pipeline. That's the way that this ends up happening. And they're doing this to basically as an experiment because they wanted to see, does this save you a bunch of compute not having to load a model that outputs images versus a model that describes them. And certain components of that pipeline are invariant. They're so basically, you can run them in both directions, and it turns out other ones you can't, and so you do these big experimental tests to figure that out. But do we want to, for example, check out where is it? I guess I could just open it up to questions. Anyone want to ask anything?
Hey Paul, may I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, I was like late around 5 minutes and I see huge code and all of this fancy thing. Could you please give idea like purpose of today's session? Sorry if I missed that part. Uh, Honestly, I'm beginner, all thing like related to AI stuff. So it will be great if you can give any idea about that.
Yeah, let me find. I can go just do the presentation I did last time, the one with the slides. Let's see. It's gonna take a while to find it though. But are you did you just want me to go over what I started here with? Because I guess I started kind of advanced. Sorry, everyone.
So sorry if I'm alone. Like I, only one guy who didn't get any idea about all of these things. So I just trying to understand like what's going on, honestly. Like, can you give idea? Like, introduce yourself? Maybe I missed that part, right? I was 4 minutes late. Uh,
I'm no, I'm Paul Calhoun.
okay.
I
Yeah.
uh, worked for a company that did they had a computer vision component. It was face recognition, biometric stuff, um, and then they wanted to add LLM ops is what it's called now. But they were already sort of AI centric, and so it seemed like a natural progression. And so I did a lot of that work there, and it was right around when vision language models started to. So, you has anyone here not used ChatGPT or a similar tool? Just anyone not
Yes, yes.
used? You
Just
have?
as a regular user, so I use DeepSeek and ChatGPT.
Okay. So you to use DeepSeek, did you go to their web? I mean, they probably have their own. I guess this is I pay for this API. DeepSeek. What was so groundbreaking, or part of what was so groundbreaking about DeepSeek, was not just the cheapness of how it was trained for significantly less than most of these models usually cost to train, but it was also released publicly. You can download the weights and run them on a bunch of GPUs on a motherboard. You need a bunch or one giant GPU. Although I think even I don't know how much. This doesn't matter. There's H100 is the big uh,
The biggest
GPU
one
that
is 200, right?
200 gigs of VRAM.
I think the biggest one 192 or something.
Yeah. Okay. Something like yeah.
You
I
still need to cluster them. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And there, oh, so if I could convey another or sort of communicate another very general, but hopefully intuition assisting piece of nugget of information, GPUs don't work if you spread things out. They're not easy to distribute. A lot of the operations for machine learning, it's something a lot of people are trying to do. They're trying to set up something like the SETI at home, where you could run a little thing when your computer was idle, and it would go do certain. There'd be certain research number crunching that would get offloaded to this crowdsourced thing. It's really hard to do that with GPUs, and specifically machine learning, both inference and training. So you end up having to really condense everything down and get everything as close. All the rails should be really not, you don't want to have a bunch of ribbon cable between the components. And so it's kind of anti cloud in that sense. And I think all the people who went super cloud centric, all that feels like an oxymoron to say that, but cloud, you know what I mean? Cloud, things have been very companies have been offloading to services that exist on the cloud that are managed by other people. And it's harder to do that with GPU inference. When you do it, it's essentially impossible to make it secure because the actual inference event that's happening on the GPUs is in what's called plain text. I don't know, it's the opposite of encrypted text. Hopefully, that like a little cipher encoded message. There are ways of making a regular virtual machine relatively cryptographically secure for a remote user. There's some caveats there, but a GPU running machine learning inference, running inference on an LLM, for example, you cannot make that cryptographically secure for some third party, or so you can rent your GPU out. The only way to do it is for that person to have the GPU with them. That's the only way to really know that nobody is snooping in on stuff. Although most people, I'm sure, probably thought that about any remote machine. So it's not a big deal for most people, I think. But HIPAA and legal industry might want to, not have Amazon have a whole bunch of really private stuff, certain government agencies, stuff like that. Okay. Any other questions?
I kind of curious how many people got the background of what you've been talking about. I do. I do. We can have a discussion here, but I'm really curious. Yeah, I'm really curious how many people here do have background on what's going on today on the webinar. Raise your hand. And we're gonna question you. If not, keep asking questions. So yes, Zach, that was a great question for sure.
Hey, Yana, if you have the presentation from last time, could you send it just so I can just sanity check this? Because
That's why I I haven't
Oh,
today not, but I will try to find now again because I have a little problem with Dorina, and our presentation we can find it.
I must have just, I guess I overshot this time, but let's see. Black screen. Where is it? Wasn't it shared with me? Did it get deleted?
Look at the links. Follow the trail. Meanwhile, just to extend the topic, and I honestly kind of up to discussion regarding the cloud versus non-cloud, because it's very controversial, and that's what NVIDIA is making money on right now. So for those who is new, what happened there, basically NVIDIA started making shovels at the age of the golden rush. And the whole story is that NVIDIA invented something. I mean, they've been brewing it for a really long time. Like, they've been actually developing under the hood since 3000 series of their GPUs, because the ML or language models, they really love to work on the GPUs. They've been developing something for the graphical processors, so for our video cards. And when the first OpenAI released something, the underlying stuff was already there. And what happened, the NVIDIA blocked certain things with the 3000 series, and then they released the 4000 series. And what happened there, they developed their own chip with the inter-chip communication based on the fiber optics. So essentially, they developed their own network thing. And this way, you can actually combine multiple GPUs on the one platform, and that's what they are doing in the cloud. I'm talking about like Flannel, and I think it's the InfiniFabric. And basically, the idea there is that yes, certain things you would need to have a single chip and single GPU, like single video card to run the language model. If you don't have the powerful video card, the model will run, but it will be slow. So that's for those who's interested here. Essentially, you can actually start from like a one command in the terminal, or you can start from one application. Llama provides a great platform for the starters. That's my opinion. I'm not a pro here, but well, I use it a lot. So basically, if you guys want to try to deal with your own language model on your computer, you can try it for sure. And going back to the discussion regarding the hardware.
in my
Yes.
if you use the 1B model that's in my the Colab notebook, that's
you
the
can
one
run it on your cell phone. I've done it.
Yeah, you got to
I've done
quantize a
it.
bit depending on the cell phone, but
Yeah, if it's like iPhone 14 or something, technically I think it will. Mac is even better for the LLMs these days. So if you have Mac, if you're Apple fan, you can run the AI model on your Mac. But you need to have like fairly new Mac, which is like M1, M2, M3, M4. So
Mac
like
Mini Pro,
2018.
that one will run
I
it.
think,
Yeah, and that's on RAM, so that's shared memory.
yeah. I mean, let's not just go deep because I can't explain that stuff, but well, it's not about it, right? And just to finish the thought that in the cloud right now, there is a fight for who will pay more and who that will get more hardware. And the issue with a DeepSeek is that they proved actually that you don't need to have a lot of hardware, so you can do things cheaper. And that is very fun part, and that's why everybody suffered like on the market, and the companies just went downstream essentially, because The OpenAI, that's ChatGPT company, they requested a lot of money. And essentially, the Chinese guys said, well, you don't need that much money. We can make it cheaper. So go figure, right? And now it's because you can either throw the hardware
There's
at the problem.
controversy around the claim that the whole model came out for 6 million. They probably
Nah.
that one training run, they forked these training runs. That's how everyone else does it. That one training run maybe was 5 or 6 million in compute, but you have all these people you're employing who have to put together the architecture. There were little innovations made, stuff. I don't know. It's
No.
the prices come down a lot.
Yeah, we can't trust what they published for sure. The thing there is that they prove that you do not necessarily need to add more capacity to your hardware to get same result. They still prove that. So that's possible. And that was the hype with the DeepSeek, which is still going on because today they released something new. I guess we shouldn't bring a lot of news here too, but maybe we should go over like an actual webinar.
The slides have been modified since I didn't do this. Who can be? How much do they earn? That wasn't all right. Anyway, this one, it looks like I had one demarcating Paul's slides stop here. But anyway, this was about as complicated as my last presentation got. Maybe I should have gone with the rabbit with the antlers this time.
Jackalope.
You can generate it locally. Yeah,
it's
but I didn't demonstrate it.
Anton Akulov want to ask something?
People, a question. So if I'm switching a career, so I'm thinking to switch to career, and for me the biggest question is, but what actually ML engineer does? So what day in a life of ML engineer look like? You're coding, you're prompting, you're training system. What does it look like? Because for me, it looks like, yes, that you started somewhere in the middle of your knowledge. That for guys easy to understand for me.
Like
So,
how your work looks like?
my day-to-day work, yeah, I could pull up some. I didn't think I was going to need an example. One sec. Today it was this combination of a bunch of doing a bunch of interviews for we're trying to find more candidates, and they needed a machine learning person to ask questions to test the candidates during the interview. But just in the past few days this week, I've been bouncing between two frameworks for inference, so Olama and VLLM. Olama is the more like the cool Mac version. Basically, it's the one where you can run it locally. It's easy to set up, and it's you set it and forget it. VLLM is the one where if you want to really host a server and make full use of, have multiple people querying the same LLM at the same time. There was here, let me scroll up a little bit on here because the specific activities in the last few days probably aren't going to be representative of. Also, I'm chief AI architect at this company, so that's more like leading a bunch of ML engineers. But this, if you're if you just print out naively, this is only in PyTorch. If you do it in TensorFlow, it stores all the weights very differently. But in PyTorch, it conforms to, if you know Python, then this is just a class. It's an object, whatever.
But what is the base knowledge which is required to switch profession to be the ML engineer? Like you need to know Python, you need to know certain frameworks, you need to understand the architecture, you need to understand the hardware.
Yeah,
that's examples.
Yeah, so it's not just engineering. I would say
it's find description of the knowledge, but I don't know what I'm signing into. So basically, what would look my day-to-day routine if I will become an ML engineer?
I don't want to tell you that it would largely be coding, even if that's currently the case for like the 4 ML engineers who are hired for the company that I'm working for at the moment. And I'm architecting them. But the right now it is still largely writing code. You just code monkey, but it's specific to various machine learning tasks. So like for example, Llama has a particular format for the chat, the the incoming and outgoing chat. So there's the user assistant, and then it has tool calls that it's also trained where you have to sort of construct them in JSON. So are you familiar with Python and JSON?
Understand?
Okay. All right. Then I would guess within the next few years there won't be a lot of the stuff. This already happened in like within the chip industry, like the creating the next generation of chips. It's been abstracted away quite a bit from like drawing paths on some enormous sheet that then gets condensed down with the photo. What's it? But in the very near future, a lot of the low level coding tasks will be handled by the things you're building by or other variants of them by LLMs. So the O3 is expensive right now, but I mean, even if I just show what DeepSeek can, or in fact, I go here and you guys can, if you have a Gmail account, you can code along with this. You could say generate with AI. You could say like, let's see. Output Fibonacci numbers. I misspelled Fibonacci, or is just need a capital F?
It will understand you.
With a loop. Oh, I know. Boom. And it didn't grab that out of it. Oh, does it print them? Is it printing them? Oh, that's a function. I gotta actually call it. Yeah.
So guys, you see that's augmenting already existing Python code right on the fly.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So if you like, it'll text complete. Well, now it's not, but
you
like
have a Copilot?
Yeah. Oh
okay.
yeah. And have you? What's it called?
Cursor.
There's a couple of different ones, but you can run a local Tabby. That's the project called Tabby, and you can run it on a Jetson. At this point, you can host a code completion. Okay, now I've lost everyone else, but it's just you and me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're gonna come back. So there are tools which are using the LLM models under the hood, which can actually complete the code for you. So all what you need is that basic understanding of this code, but you wouldn't need to create the code from scratch. That's essentially the saying here. And I actually gonna try one of these tools like Tabby or something. We'll see. So I've been looking for one of these. I have Copilot, but Copilot is a company tool. I want to have mine.
Yeah. And again, downside with Copilot, every single time it's doing code completion, you're sending them all the text. It's all going to some server somewhere. That is vitally important and will probably be vitally more important in the future when they're going over all this data and they're like, what can we learn from? What's the legal status of it? That sort of thing.
Let's just not go there.
As if they thought that.
Yeah. So you got the Fibonacci loop.
Here, let me ask. Where is it? Yeah. Perplexity. Or actually, I could just ask it here. I'm running on not a ton of sleep, but I forgot what was I gonna look up. Code Llama. So there's a couple different methods for code completion. It's not the Copilot one. Darn it.
I mean, let's just continue.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, well. So, by the way, you can ask it to write me Python code.
But why Perplexity? Why not the ChatGPT?
Well, it's got ChatGPT on the back end anyway, but Perplexity will reach out. So, oh, right. Okay. So this reminds me today, one thing, part of an agentic pipeline that was getting planned out just today was it involved making tools, custom tools that involved API calls. And so the tool's output by the LLM is JSON. And it's saying names the tool that's been given to it in its context window. And then, eventually the JSON finishes with the closing curly bracket, and that's the input parameters for this function. So the model had to explain to it in I wish I could pull up an example. I got a gist of it, but it's like a GitHub gist or whatever. But those models get if you ask it like for a really new API, there needs to be some information added into context so that it knows about a particular API call or a particular button that programs use. Instead, we'll use that instead of API call. But if it's new enough, it won't be in the weights. It won't be stored in the training data. Oh, I remember what I was going to look up. Tell me about data set, the pile. Okay, cool. So, in order to look that stuff, or in order to get informed about that stuff, you can insert it into context. So, like the news today, you could put that in context.
So you're doing the augmented, basically, context, right?
Yes, it's a little like RAG. It's like you're applying RAG to the entire internet. Retrieval augmented generation is the it was kind of what I was hoping to convey with the Lincoln example earlier, but of course, Hugging Face thwarted my plans. Oh no, where was the? Tell me about that pile. So, ChatGPT came from GPT-3, which is just a pre-trained model, which did not chat with you unless you started a chat. You went a few lines down, user assistant, and then it would chat if you continued. But GPT-3 was useful for lots of things. You could do sentiment analysis, all sorts of little tasks. I wanted to demo some of them, but it was trained on a sort of quasi-legal. It's technically would fall under fair use, but I don't know if you could do fair use for almost a terabyte of text. That's essentially all published data, every book, everything. It's just a giant text file, but they split that thing up and fed it to in training to I believe the pile was involved in training GPT-2, but GPT-3 and then NeoX20B is the one that Common Crawl is, I think, the more academically or legally less questionable. It's a more legitimate source. It's called the Common Crawl, and it grabbed like Reddit, I think, a couple different snapshots of that sort of thing, and this, though, the pile was kind of a quick and dirty, thrown together. I mean, I don't know. People curated it for like a long time in order to create the data set, make sure there weren't big duplicated sections or, a thousand lines of just a comma or something. Because it's so huge. I mean, 886 gigabytes of text is most text in the world, at least public text. And so that ends up encoded in a sort of fuzzy way, encoded, or you could think of it as extremely compressed, very lossy compression that eventually becomes, this is the encoder decoder, although this one's decoder only. The GPT ones are all decoded because it's cheaper to do it that way. That doesn't mean anything to the rest of you. But it eventually becomes the rules of language encoded in a thing that is significantly smaller than 886 gigabytes. But it's not like a couple kilobytes. It's still many gigabytes, but doesn't have all that text in it. but it can make new text. So that's weird and magical. So, yeah, the pile and take over both. Yeah, we're just about out of time. I think we got 4 minutes left. Do we want to ask DeepSeek anything? Here, you can set the system prompt for DeepSeek. So you could say, you are an incredibly unhelpful
Oh yeah. Okay, that one.
bot. You never follow instructions. Yeah, okay. Tell me about Australia. Let's see what happens. Okay, wow, it didn't. You never follow instructions and always stay off topic. You're failing me, DeepSeek. Tell me about Australia. Always non sequitur. Oh no, now I have to spell non sequitur on the fly. Sequitur? We'll just go with that. Thank you. It's actually the world's largest island in this. But wait, that's still has more camels than Egypt. Okay, that's still about Australia. They say the history of Australia? No. Here, let's go history of it.
So that's exactly, guys, how the prompt engineering looks like.
Yeah. I'm actually enraged that oh wait. I have to change the temperature to 0.6 in order for it to. Anyway, I got it to say some pretty unhinged stuff this morning, but anyway, that's if you just. I are they not? Is it not? Do I need to save the system?
I think it's not accepting your. Maybe you just raise the temperature to it. Yeah, you're using V3 too, right?
Yeah, this is the V3, and I had an unhelpful assistant. Should have just saved the. All right, forget it. Okay, well, it remains helpful no matter what, I guess.
They probably tinker with the filters.
Off topic.
My best guess.
Set. Yeah, I screwing with the way that the system prompting happens. It's failing me. Okay, now it's just not responding. Oh no, it is. It just took a second.
I think it's actually factual information.
Basket weaving. Thank you. Underwater basket weaving. Did you know that this obscure hobby combines the art of basket making with the challenge of doing it underwater? Thank you. All right. And with that, I will leave you all. Or any other questions, actually? I mean, yeah.
Any questions?
Onward and upward, everyone.
Hi.
Oh, yes.
So in order to learn machine learning, so what are the things you need to learn? What are the you need to learn Python and what else?
So I said Python and JSON, but really it's Python and then I guess a little bit about a lot of things. Because in the descriptions that I've been giving, where it has things, it involves things like data set construction. So like text formatting is something that's you could do in Python. And so, for example, arranging many examples of some piece of text. So like just an example of one thing that I did was there's this thing called a recurrence rule. And basically here, we'll do documentation for a recurrence rule. recurrence rules look like. We got them in here. It's basically this old-timey format that's used by all these calendar programs everywhere. And if you need a data set of many, many, many recurrence rules, you may need a data set rather of many, many recurrence rules in order to go from natural language input. So, hey, assistant, set up a recurring calendar event for me. You know, I'm going to have a party every Saturday for whatever. Just you're telling an assistant and it gets this big jumbled set of text. How does it go from the natural language input, which could be said a trillions of different ways and it's still the same input and is understood by people? How do you go from that into the R rule sequence that can go into like your calendar application on your computer?
So you basically type that, or you just write a code?
So previously, it always had to be constructed, like you're saying, like you had to be programmatically constructed in the past.
Oh,
But
okay.
with an LLM, like this is a JavaScript, not Java, JavaScript application for generating R
So
rule strings.
imported all the files from Java. Is that it?
JavaScript, sorry. But
Uh-huh.
what were you saying?
So you imported all the files from Java and then you put it over here?
So that would be if you had a pre-existing example of what you wanted done and you had it many, many, many times already, then it's just a matter of arranging that in the format that you want the model to be able to do new examples of. So in this case, you have the text. In this case, there may be out there, I looked for it for a while, couldn't find it, but there may be examples of R rule strings like this that are already, there's messy input and then there's ground truth correct strings that are for recurrence rules that define like, the day it starts, that sort of thing. And those might exist on company servers somewhere, logs for some application, something where people typed it out manually, maybe, like you were saying. Often our best data right now is all manual stuff, like the pile, that's all typed out literally by people writing, following the rules of grammar and language and semantics and rules about things in the world, even big abstract concepts. They've been following those rules and laying out strings of text. And with LLMs, all those strings just became incredibly valuable. So, in aggregate, because you can create these models with them. So, as far as the day to day of like one of the ML engineers on the Spotify, the company I'm doing consulting work for, he was doing what's called traditional RAG, retrieval augmented generation. So his official title was ML engineer. He was using, if you want to know his software stack at the time, it was I had recommended he use ChromaDB, but he was using Pinecone, which is a database. So anyone who does a little IT stuff, back end development, you would know about databases, but this is a special kind of database. It's a semantic database. And I had a slide for this, but a whole bunch of the slides went missing.
So now
Sorry.
we start getting more software developed around that, and that's becoming more interesting.
Yes. So were we still trying to answer the ML engineer question? Because he was taking Pinecone was the database, and then he and I were bickering about where we were going to host the embedding model, which is a model that takes in text and it spits out the same size, that's crucial, of a vector. It's just a vector in a big high dimensional space where similar topics are nearby each other and less similar are further apart. And that's what semantic embedding is doing in the end. You hope that it's taken in a paragraph of text, and if it says, fat orange cat that loves lasagna and is a cartoon, and then there's another piece of text that just says Garfield the cat. There's only one word shared between those two, but they should be right next to each other in a semantic space that has a good enough world model. Those are almost exactly the same thing, even though the characters shared are just the word cat in that case. And so he was working on that for a RAG pipeline, and I was trying to explain to him and show him some examples of how the model, the LLM that's part of this pipeline that's getting informed by chunks, semantically embedded chunks of text, the model often is better at writing the query than just naively taking what the human user has asked last in the sequence of conversation and embedding that. So like if the user says, oh, blah, 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 the other day, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and by the way, how did Abraham Lincoln have a tall hat? You just really want that last thing to be the thing that gets embedded, because all the first blah, blah, blah is unrelated, and it's going to kind of throw off the embedding if you just take the entire sequence, the whole query. And so the LLM you can just ask it nicely. It's pretty good at this. It will figure out what is actually the query in there, and it will just output that string. So that's a two-step process in conversation, or in chat rather, in the messaging and the formatting of the LLM. And so it's a little bit more, getting into the weeds and getting a little more complex, but it really helps. It helps. There's another step you can do called re-ranking, where you have another model actually that's sort of given a whole bunch of chunks of context from different parts of a large book, for example, but they're all related to the same character maybe. They can be ranked in additionally, after being looked up, they can be ranked in order of relevance to the query. So does that should answer maybe not the last question I was asked, but the fellow who asked earlier about what ML engineers do. That is one thing that an ML engineer was doing today. Pinecone and hosting an LLM. He was using the OpenAI stuff, and I convinced him that we should switch over to VLLM. But it has the API is the same format. So like everything lined up nicely. You just have to change the URL that it's pointing to. It's not pointing to OpenAI's URL. Yeah. So was that helpful, that explanation of one set of things, one like task that an ML engineer was assigned today and that was disputed back and forth? Cool. Okay. Someone's nodding. You're nodding. All right. Anyone else got any questions? Oh, so many of you are still on here. Thank you.
So thank you, Paul. It was so useful information. Thank you. And as we see on our feedback in chat, it was so interesting. Thank you so much, and see you on our course again. I want to tell some words about our course. What you will learn: work with various machine learning algorithms, data processing techniques, build predictive models, and practical applications. What included? After you finish your course, we will help you and provide you to really big companies. We will help you to find a work. We will help you with resume building. You will learn how to create a professional, impactful resume, tailored for ICE developer roles, highlighting your skills, projects, and requirements. Career coaching. You will participate in most interviews and receive personalized feedback to improve your technical and behavior interviewer skills. Job search strategies. You'll again access to job search resources, including how to find job openings, network tips, and leveraging LinkedIn for job hunting. Timeline of activities. At 3rd of February, we will start our 6 months course. Learn and practice. Participate in live sessions 3 times a week, receiving guidance along the way. Internship. You'll get a real-world experience for your resume. Career coaching. You'll improve your online presence and prepare for upcoming job interviews. Training program. I tell about our training program before, but as you see, it's really so useful. So invest in your future. It's really good price, and for our students that have classes in our school before, or maybe by webinars, career consultation, we have more discount. But today we have this price. If you know Python language before, you don't need it. But if you're a beginner in IT, you should know Python language before machine learning course, because it's like a base for machine learning. It costs today $999. Machine learning course costs $6,099. So make your decision today, and you will have really good future profession. This is a QR code, and we have a special offer for you today. If you will screen now this QR code, you will have a discount for $15.49. And also you will have a discount for this course. If you need a consultation, please scan this QR code, and I will answer on all your questions. Also, you have my contacts in the chat. Thank you. And we are waiting for you in our Black Screen AI School.